All right, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to today's webinar, everyone. We're covering the topic of how support leaders can solve the agent burnout problem. My name is Madeline Jacobson. I'm the content marketing manager at Deskpro. I'm going to be moderating the session today. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speakers. So first we have Hannah Scott, who is our VP of Sales and Customer Success. Hannah, would you like to share a little bit about your background and experience at Deskpro?
Of course. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Hannah. I'm the VP of Sales and Success here at Deskpro. I've been with Deskpro as an organization for just over 8 years now. And customer support and customer experience has been a huge part of my role throughout that time. Obviously, every day my team help people understand how Deskpro can help shape their customer support use cases. And we do a lot of work in supporting customers as they go through changes within their organization, upgrading in different feature sets, making new changes. And then previously in an earlier role in Deskpro, I also was responsible for our own support and technical support team. And so I have spent a lot of time looking at how to get the most out of Deskpro as a product and out of support teams to give the best support possible to our customers.
Fantastic, thanks. And then we've got Vanessa Klar, who's one of our customer success managers. Vanessa, do you want to talk a little bit about your role?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Vanessa, and I've been with Deskpro about 2 years. And all of that time has been working as a customer success manager. My main role is to work with our existing customers and help make sure that they are getting the ROI out of the product, seeking any ways to help improve their workflows, tell them about new features, really be a partner with our existing customers, and also kind of be the voice of our customers, bring back their feedback to our product and engineering teams. If they run into any issues, I'll work with them and our internal teams to get those resolved. I've really been enjoying my time at Deskpro and this role in particular. I really enjoy learning about all the different ways our different types of customers use the product and how they're able to customize it to fit their unique needs for their business and help make sure that is a successful project for them.
Great, thanks, Vanessa. All right, so I'll give a quick overview of what we're going to cover. And I should mention this webinar is being recorded and we're going to share the recording. I know that's a question in every webinar. So first, we're going to start kind of high level and just talk about the conditions now that are leading to support agent burnout and how that's impacting support teams more broadly. Then we're going to look at some of the things that support leaders can control to improve the agent experience. And Vanessa is going to be sharing some real world examples based on some of the support teams that she works with. And we'll have about 10 minutes at the end for audience Q&A. So you can add your questions to the Q&A box anytime during this session, and we will cover as many as we can at the end. All right. So to kick things off, just a couple of relevant stats here. So in Salesforce's State of Service report from this year, they found that almost half of, or over half of customer service agents have said that they have experienced burnout at some point this year. And across several different industry sources for both IT teams and customer support teams, the average turnover was 30 to 45%. So we're seeing people are experiencing stress, feeling burnt out, and then leaving their roles. So Vanessa, I was wondering if maybe you could start us off and talk a little bit about what you've heard from some of the support leaders that you work with about some of the things that are causing agent burnout.
Sure. Like Madeline said, I speak with a great variety of our customers who are all using Deskpro in different ways, but the reasons for burnout all seem to kind of be the same top reasons. First one is repetitive work. Agents are having to handle a lot of the same low-level issues and respond on tickets over and over again with the same answers. I also run into a lot of people who are their agents are getting frustrated having to interact with upset customers or users, and obviously that can lead to a great cause for burnout. Another common area of burnout that I see is context switching, agents having to get overloaded with information. They're having to switch from tool to tool to find all of the answers that they need to be able to respond to their end users. And that gets to be a little bit exhausting for them. A lot of agents are also under time-based stress. So, they're being engaged on their speed-based responses on tickets, having to meet KPIs and whatnot. So that's some extra stress on their plates. And then there's a lot of agents that are worried about AI coming in and taking over their jobs, replacing human agents. And I know that that's something that's been top of mind for us at Deskpro when we're working to improve and roll out AI features. Um, Hannah, I'll pass it to you to talk about the outcomes that these burnouts are causing.
Thank you. Yeah, the challenge of burnout is bigger than just the support agents themselves feeling, you know, burnt out by the work itself. And so we see that outcome across the organization. So you have the teams themselves. Often if support agents are burnt out, then the quality of the work they're able to produce is not as strong. That can lead to just lower performance when looking at KPIs. That can be lower customer satisfaction on those issues, which then has that knock-on impact on how the customer feels about the support that they're receiving. If burnout goes too far, then the biggest risk is agent turnover. Support agents are incredibly valuable, and the hiring and training process is something that can take a large amount of time. And so having agents move out of the business is obviously operationally very expensive, and then very expensive in terms of headcount replacement costs there as well. And then that has a knock-on effect to management as well. If you're spending more of your time hiring, training, onboarding, making changes to headcount, that's less time you can spend on making true operational improvements, whether that be improving the style of support that you're doing, inputting new tools. All of that time ends up being sucked out to hiring and training. And so the impact on a human agent in them feeling overwhelmed by the work and having that burnout is a huge operational issue across the whole organization and will be felt by both management and by your end customers as well.
Got it. Yeah, I imagine there's kind of that vicious cycle as well where you have agents leave and then the team is potentially understaffed. So they're experiencing more stress, and then it's stress on the managers as well, like you mentioned, to have to be constantly hiring and onboarding. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I think support teams on that point often run very lean.
Mhm.
Support teams in almost all organizations are cost centers, and we all know that. And we definitely know that as we work with our customers. And so I definitely agree with that. Losing a member of the team then means everyone else's workload goes up by 20% for that time period, which only adds to that burnout of the next agent in the team as well.
Mhm. Got it. All right, so we've covered the negatives. So let's switch over to what support leaders can actually do to reduce agent burnout. So obviously there are certain things that support team leaders don't have control over. Vanessa, you mentioned the issue of customer frustration. So support leaders can't control the nature of the interactions themselves, but there are actually quite a few things that support leaders can control. So we're going to be talking about three different levers that support team leaders can pull: reducing repetitive work, reducing friction in agent workflows, and then addressing AI wariness. All right, so the first one we're going to cover is tackling repetitive work. Hannah, could you talk a little bit about why you think this is a good issue to start with if you're trying to reduce support burnout?
Yeah, of course. Repetitive work is just a consistent thing that has to happen every day. And in some organizations, it's completely unavoidable, and in others, it is. And typically, we find with agents that, especially in support teams, they join organizations in order to solve problems for their customers. And if a lot of that time is spent doing something that is consistent day in, day out, it's just not the most fulfilling work that could be done. Most people that get into customer support want to truly dig into complex problems, look for resolutions, find fun ways of resolving things, and work with customers on those engagements. And the repetitive work aspect that could be quite easily mitigated, which we'll get onto, is typically just work that we find reduces job satisfaction, reduces morale, and typically doesn't allow for the customer service agents to do what they wanted to do when they look at why they wanted to get into customer support to begin with.
Got it. So could you talk a little bit about things that support leaders can do using their help desk to reduce that repetitive work?
Yeah, of course. I think the headline of this slide is really key, which is that measure and then automate. The first thing we need to do is understand what our repetitive issues are. It's really easy to assume we know what they are, especially if we're away from the team looking in to a help desk from a different lens. But really understanding what they are. So understanding how we categorize our issues, running analysis on what comes up time and time again, where the agents are having to handle a process over and over again. And, we would always recommend doing this by building some categorization, either manually applying categories or using tooling to automatically apply categories, and then allow us to build up reports so that we can find those most common areas. And that allows us to start from the top of the list to the bottom. How can we target those most repetitive issues first? And then within a tool like Deskpro, there's some key ways that you'd be able to then help combat that repetitive work. The first is using something like a snippet. A snippet is a canned response. So it's a pre-written message that can have variables in. And those variables can be as simple as just the person's name, or they can be as complex as details that they're providing you within a ticket field and then shared back. And they allow agents to move from having to manually type the same message day after day, which obviously leads to discrepancy in exactly what's stated and other factors, to being able to apply those with the click of a button or a keyboard shortcut as well. And then the other side is then looking at how you can transition those away from ever having to be a ticket in the first place. And that's where self-service content comes in. And self-service content can be shown via something like our Help Center portal, through something like a chat widget, but creating content once that can then be shared time and time again or accessed by customers time and time again to answer those questions. So making it as seamless as possible for someone to receive information 24/7, either with minimal agent help or with a little bit of agent help.
Great. And then Vanessa, do you have an example or two that you can share of support leaders that you work with who are reducing repetitive work?
Yeah, I have a couple of stories, both on some of those tools that Hannah just spoke to. First one being snippets. So there's a large customer that I've been working pretty closely with in the last few months in the shipping industry, and they have their accounts payable team working out of Deskpro. They get a very high volume number of tickets, and the majority of those tickets coming in have very similar questions about, invoices, payment status, billing processes, and whatnot. So instead of their agents having to repeatedly type out those same responses over and over, their team leader has worked to create several different snippets that their agents can use, saving a significant amount of time. Like she said, just a few short clicks or short codes, rather than having to repeat that response from scratch each time. And to highlight an example of using the help desk for self-service, another team that I've been working with closely, which is a support team, they, went through and did an evaluation of their most commonly asked questions and have spent a lot of time really building out their help center, creating detailed knowledge-based articles to have within their help center that answer those most commonly asked questions. So they're customers can come and take a look at the help desk and the knowledge-based articles and find most of the answers that they need themselves, not requiring the work of the agents to come in and respond to those. The team is continuing to monitor those tickets coming in, always looking for other topics that they can create additional articles to add to their knowledge base.
Great. Yeah, I think it's a really simple idea that you could be using your help desk to identify the top issues and then turn those into help center articles. But I could see how that could have a really big impact for that customer and anybody else taking that approach. So that's great. All right. So let's turn to the next lever that support leaders can pull, which is addressing what's slowing your agents down. We already kind of touched on this with like talking about using snippets, pre-canned responses, but I'd love to spend a little bit more time talking about other things that support leaders can do to help reduce friction for agents, especially around context switching, moving between different tools to find information. I know that's a really big one for our customers. So Hannah, could you start us off talking a little bit about some of the tactics that support leaders can use to remove friction from agent workflows?
Yeah, of course. There's a number of different tools out there that are directly focusing on that removing of friction and making day-to-day life within a tool like a help desk as simple as possible for agents and trying to take out as much spaces as we can. Um, the first is the concept of intelligent triage, or automated triage in some way. So being able to have less time spent of the people who can't solve a ticket having to read that information to decide whether or not they should work on it. Pre AI and pre help desk, I've worked with a lot of customers where having a pool of agents whose entire job it is just to triage tickets all day. Definitely used to be not that uncommon to see. And the creation of intelligent triage is obviously a huge weight off the shoulders of those people. Being able to have AI or keyword search read through a ticket, identify what that ticket is about, and then send it straight to the right small team or person is a huge win, because people reading tickets they can't resolve is time lost and obviously a lot of friction for them in trying to find something to work on. Um, Tied to snippets that we just looked at, there's another feature in Deskpro called macros. Macros are multi-step processes. The one of the benefits of help desks is that you can do a lot of different things on tickets, but one of the negatives there is everything can take a little bit of time. And especially if someone is used to working in an email mailbox, it can feel like there's almost new friction being added in when you move to a help desk for the first time. And macros are really designed to stop that additional friction. So being able to do things like automatically set labels, set custom fields, assign the agent, assign the team during an escalation process across to somewhere else, and allow that to be one click like it would be to forward an email is a really key aim of a tool like macros, because having all of that extra data ultimately removes a lot of friction for management up the chain, allows way more data storage, allows for a more cleaner process, and ultimately takes away a lot of that friction for the agent as well. Another big piece is obviously things tied to KPIs. Most support teams run on KPIs around first response time and resolution SLAs. And so we really focus on automated escalation or automated notification of tickets they may be at risk of failing a KPI. So running for KPIs and agents really working towards that is a seamless journey of whatever it is that needs to be done before the time runs out is at the top of the list and is there to be worked on. Another big part of some friction that comes with working in a support team is often agent collision. So the lost time that can come from two or three members of the same team all reading the same ticket only to find out someone else has already replied to it, or a couple of different people all starting to draft something and then see an email goes out. And obviously that's a lot of lost time for all those individual agents who were all looking at the same thing. And so there's a number of different features within a platform like Deskpro that help with that. We have things like the ability to see draft replies. So as soon as I start typing in my reply box, anybody else that has that ticket open is going to see what I'm typing in real time. We also have features like ticket locking. If you're working in high velocity and um, people opening the same ticket tab is very common because things are coming in thick and fast. Ticket locking allows that first person who views that ticket automatically applies a lock. No one else can edit it until they've replied or released the lock or closed that tab down. So it makes it really, really clear who's doing what without any chance of someone else accidentally working on it. And then, of course, we have a brilliant selection of AI features that are also there to start helping the human. And the approach we've really taken with our AI features are all about um, being able to help a human being in that role work through their tickets more efficiently and more effectively, whilst really focusing on working on that higher value work. So again, removing the repetitive tasks and being able to free them up to work on those more high complexity tickets that maybe AI isn't able to resolve. So that intelligent triage, the ability to summarize tickets, especially if a ticket's been through numerous people within the organization already, and the ability to help draft and respond to tickets, whilst also looking up information from knowledge-based articles for the agent and providing that all within a response as well. But we'll talk about that in a bit more detail later as well.
Great. I know you covered a lot of ground there. Vanessa, do you have a customer story or two you could share about using any of these capabilities to reduce friction?
Yeah, one of the first things that comes to my mind that's kind of on a different topic of what Hannah was talking about that causes a lot of friction amongst the agents is, like I said earlier, that context switching, having to switch from tool to tool to gather all of the information that an agent might need to respond on a ticket. And one of the ways that I think Deskpro is great, I mean, it's a great tool out of the box, but there's so many ways, with all of those features Hannah just spoke on, and other things like integrations to where your support leaders can really customize Desk Pro and set it up so that it's best suited for the types of teams that you're working with or tickets that you're responding to. So, for example, I was working with a team recently who they have a team of account managers using Desk Pro to interact with their customers, and they were having to switch out of Desk Pro pretty much on every ticket to gather more information about their customers they were responding to. So I worked with them to set up the HubSpot integration within Deskpro. So they're able to stay within Deskpro, get a high level overview of their customers' details to help them respond to the ticket. It seems like something small, but they've really had a lot of success already with using that, saving the time of having to jump around to other tools. We have about 75 different integrations that you can connect within your Desk Pro instance. Also things like Salesforce, Slack, Teams, all of these different integrations to, again, try to alleviate the time that agents are getting that friction of having to switch from tool to tool.
Great. Yeah, and I know at Desk Pro we work with a lot of B2B customer support teams, so I know that can be huge to be able to get that account level information on the ticket, especially around things like what tier the customer is or ARR value to help you understand how to respond to that. So that's great. All right. Let's talk about AI now. So I know a lot of people are, starting to experience some AI fatigue or some wariness. And a lot of people probably heard Gartner came out with that prediction last year that 80% of common customer service issues would be handled by agentic AI by 2029. I think some of the predictions like that have been softened or walked back now, but it's still understandable that support agents might be feeling a little nervous about AI replacing them. So, Hannah, could you maybe start us off talking a little bit about how support team leaders can work with their agents to use AI as an assistant rather than as a replacement?
Of course. And I touched on some of this on the previous slide, but a key focus for us, and especially in our, B2B space where a lot of our customers are handling, complex business inquiries via tickets. One thing we're really focused on is how support leaders can demonstrate that AI can assist agents, but it's not there to replace them. And it really goes back to decreasing that burnout by using AI to take away that repetitive work, those simpler tickets, the things that come up day in, day out that can be automated, and free up agents to be able to put value in other places, whether that's to be able to add more value across the business, or whether that's able to, really work on those KPIs on those more complex issues. And so agents have more time to focus on the high value work and complex problem solving, whilst letting AI support them on the more repetitive day-to-day tasks that come with the role. And so a really big thing for us is we do not see this as all or nothing. Our entire focus around AI features has been about keeping the human in the loop and ensuring that human beings feel supported by AI. That's a tool there to make them more efficient and support them in doing the best job they can. and not to replace their role and to use AI in place of support. And so there's a number of different features we have in the product. Some of them we've covered throughout the session, but I'll talk through them in a little bit more detail. So the first is something like an AI suggested response. AI suggested responses are the ability to use information you already have in your system that you've given your AI tooling to allow it to help prepare a response that the agent can then control the prompt for, control the context for, and ultimately control the messaging that goes out the door as well. And so all of our suggested replies are exactly that. They're a suggestion to the agent on how they could reply that they can then edit and make any changes to. All of our AI tools just on the back end are using something called data sources. We want to use data that is valuable to our customers' organizations to help drive the AI. So the AI tooling isn't guessing what the answer should be. And so it will directly tie into your Deskpro knowledge base. And so supporting that loop of answering good tickets and creating content in the knowledge base is a really nice way to work with your team. Or you can add links to other sources, so other websites that have content on PDF sources and those elements to allow the AI to leverage information that you feel confident and comfortable with it leveraging. We also have features around tone refinement, and on the same way, the ability to get sentiment detection on tickets as well. And so both reading the tone and writing the tone can be modified in a way to suit that customer. We definitely find with a lot of agents, I guess, definitely tied to burnout, that being able to identify tone and know the best way to respond to a tone is a challenge. If you're in a high velocity help desk and you're onto your 70th ticket of the day and it's a Friday afternoon, your ability to spot the nuance in someone's tone is obviously much harder. And then to think about the best way to not only give the information that customer needs back to them, but to present it in the right way is not always the easiest thing to do. And so those toolings are both there to help you identify that tone, allow for things like automatic escalation to management, where the tone may be particularly upset or angry, and then also reply back and refine based on tone as well. Tied into that topic we were talking about before with suggested replies, one of the other features we have is auto-generated knowledge-based articles. The only way AI gets more beneficial to humans is by understanding what you want to reply. And so one thing we've done is the ability to take that really well-written ticket, take out all the PII, take out anything about the customer specifically, and turn that into a knowledge-based article that can be hosted onto the help center that you may have. And again, a focus there is all about the human reviewing it. It's about getting it to 80-85% of the way there, and a human then being able to tweak and make that content ready to go onto a help center. And then we also have features around things like ticket summarization. I think because we spend a lot of time in either internal use cases, so being the support teams for the rest of a business through things like HR and IT, but also through doing more complex B2B support. One thing that we see with our customers that might be slightly different in other help desks is the complexity of tickets. And a ticket in Deskpro often goes through numerous rounds of replies and potentially numerous people or teams before that ticket is completely closed off. And so ticket summarization is one of those features that is really there to reduce time spent absorbing a ticket, and is a really nice use of how an AI tool is there to support a human agent. And so our AI summarization will read a ticket, summarize it into bullet points. It means if there's already been 30 messages on the ticket, someone doesn't have to spend 20 minutes absorbing all of the detail. They're able to read the summary and have a really clear understanding on where's this ticket been, what's been tried so far, and what am I going to present next. And then in the background, we just have an array of AI features for automation as well. So AI triage, we've already touched on, sentiment detection, and then a lovely little feature called thank you detection. Thank you detection is the prime example of a feature designed to just make human day-to-day life a little bit easier. All it does is if a ticket just says the word thank you, it won't reopen it, and it will flag that it's been kept closed because of thank you detection. In some help desks, we see Every single time a ticket gets closed, the customer comes back and says, "Thank you so much for your help," which is lovely. We want to encourage our customers to obviously treat our team with lots of respect and be very happy. But it definitely is then just another step of having to go back in, reopen that ticket, reclose it down. And so being able to automate some of those things in the background again just frees up agents' time to be adding value and adding higher value in the places that matter. And so really focusing on agents being the home of communication with customers, the soft skills, and the fact that all of AI tools are there to support a human agent is a really big focus of how we want to drive our AI forward and how we hope our customers like to present AI to their customers as well.
Great. All right, and Vanessa, I'm going to turn it over to you if you have an example or two of how some of our customers are using AI to help their human agents.
Sure. First, though, I wanted to hit on another feature that is one of my favorite AI features within Deskpro, and that's the ability to expand a reply. That's one that when I'm working on a ticket, I use pretty frequently, so I can jot down the main points that I'm trying to relay to the customer that I'm speaking with. I hit a little button, and the AI basically takes my very broad thoughts and turns it into a well put together response. But yeah, to share a customer example, one of our newer customers that's a larger size school district, they joined at the start of last school year. And throughout the year, we worked really hard on gathering metrics and reports on, again, those common ticket questions that are coming in. And this was specific to an HR team. So towards the end of the year, we were able to take a look at all of their goals and metrics that they had been measuring and kind of thought through the summertime of ways that we could help with reducing some of those repetitive tickets that are coming in. I know we already kind of spoke about that ability to turn tickets into knowledge-based articles. During the summer, I worked closely with this team to go through and reflect on what those common questions were. And then we went back through tickets from the previous school year that had those common questions and were able to easily turn those questions or that ticket into a knowledge-based article to add to their help center, which again, that allows for their employees in the school district to go to the portal, be able to find answers themselves. And it's also reducing the amount of time that their HR team is responding to tickets. And again, to just reiterate what we've been saying about keeping the human in the loop. So, they're determining which topics are important to add articles to the knowledge base. They're having to go through that proofreading process of making sure that AI got it all right, make any changes they want, and then that draft is turned in, and another human can have the ability to go through and proofread it before it's actually published onto the help desk.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that example. And good call out on expanding your reply is another great AI feature.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing throughout this school year with our check-ins if they are seeing, a reduced number of tickets coming in with those common questions. So their HR teams are able to, spend time on questions that really require their expertise versus just, PTO questions and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, we're coming up on time for our Q&A. But first of all, just wanted to say, obviously what we've been sharing here, we have been talking about Deskpro, but we hope that this is useful for any help desk that you may be using. If you are currently using just a shared inbox or a ticketing system that isn't working for you, and you'd like to see more of Deskpro in action, feel free to go to our website and schedule a demo. I've also put QR codes here so that you can connect with Hannah and Vanessa on LinkedIn. And just really quickly before we jump into the Q&A section, I'll go to each of you in turn. So maybe you, Hannah, first, and then Vanessa. Could you maybe share like your one top takeaway that you want people to take out of this session?
Yeah, of course. I think my overall takeaway is just burnout is a real risk in organizations. And I think we've definitely seen with a lot of the media attention on AI that agents are sometimes feeling burnt out and I think, afraid of how AI can help them. And so I think leadership working with their team to showcase that AI is there to make them more efficient and remove that burnout and ultimately help make day-to-day life feel easier, and allow that time to go on to more high value work is definitely something that I'm keen to make sure AI features are doing, and they're not seen as something that's going to change, every single thing about the way they're doing the job tomorrow. Like that's definitely, I think sometimes, as you showed, Madeline, what some of the big analysis in the market was saying, and we've definitely seen some of that be walked back or changed. And so, presenting AI as a really good tool to make day-to-day life better is ultimately what we're trying to do with the system, and what we hope our customers want to do with the system over time as well.
Hey, Vanessa, do you have a final takeaway to share?
Yeah, my brain listening to Hannah just now kind of went to the frustration and burnout that these leaders are probably experiencing as well. And, I think I want to relay to not only our Desk Pro customers, but those that are using help desks. Let your team, your customer success team at the help desk that you're using, partner with you and work on identifying business goals for your organization and how we can improve your setup to help reach those goals that you have and continue to help make your agent's experience better. I guess my takeaway is it's not all on you as the leader. We're here to help support that process as well.
Mhm. Awesome. All right. And with that, we can turn it over to Q&A. So if you have any questions that you haven't entered yet, please put those in the Q&A box now. I will stop sharing my screen so that I can jump into Q&A, see if we've had any questions come in. One to start off with, this may be one for you, Hannah. Could you talk a little bit more about what goes into categorizing issues and tickets so that you can use that information to develop snippets or help center articles?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's probably three ways that you can identify categories. In tickets, there's the most automated down to the most human, and every organization is different. So, I mean, there are AI automation tools out there. In Deskpro, it's called intent detection. That allows you, if you already know what your categories are or what you think they are based on experience, to rebuild those in and then allow tickets to be automatically tracked to those intents. The nice thing about intent detection is it's not looking for particular keywords or anything like that. It's reading the overall messaging and then trying to assign it to one of those options. And so if we already know what our categories are, that can be a really good way of providing that automation. Other ways of doing it are through things like keyword detection via standard automations without AI. And then you also just have the human option, which is giving power to your agents to select a category. And if you've never done this before, the first thing you can do is almost ask agents to summarize tickets into three words that sum it up to begin with, and then analyze that data after a month to understand, okay, what are our commonality themes through a reporting feature. And then after that, build out your categories and then look to maybe use tooling to automate it. So it really depends what we already know in terms of how it goes into categorizing. But ultimately, the aim of categorization is probably for it to be as automated as possible, so it isn't extra work for the team to do. Having said that, if we've never done any categorization before, it's a great exercise for teams to be involved in to understand, how do we start to categorize tickets? Because in some organizations, that might be more based on the team it goes to, or it might be more based on a very specific skill within a team. And so understanding as a group with your human agents involved, to what helps categorize a ticket can be a really great exercise to start with. But the idea is it should be very, very minimal lift once you've gone through that beginning process, and just be something that can run in the background and therefore inform decisions through reporting.
Got it. We've had another question come in that I think either of you could answer. Which Desk Pro plans include ticket summarization? A little pop quiz.
Sure, that's available with our professional plan. The ticket summarization feature is one of our AI features. And I know I spoke earlier to my favorite being the expand reply. Summarization is probably my other favorite AI feature that we offer. It saves a lot of time. We at Deskpro, we work pretty collaboratively. So I might get past a ticket that an engineer has already helped with or tech support, and it gets passed to me with several different messages already on the ticket, and I can quickly get a summary and know, what it is that I'm there to help with.
Awesome. Thank you. I think we've got time for maybe just a couple more questions. So kind of a change management one. Do you have any recommendations about how to get agents used to using tools like snippets and macros if they haven't been working that way before? Maybe they've just been working out of a shared inbox, for example. Vanessa, since you're hands-on with our customer, I don't know if that's one that you want to take.
Um, yeah, so I feel like as the organization leader, you're probably less, responding to tickets. So that's where, working with your team of agents that are replying on the tickets and working with them to understand, what those most commonly occurring topics or questions are that are coming in. And and keeping those snippet buildings ongoing, right? It's not like a one and done type of setup. You'll continue to find gaps or areas of snippets that would be a good addition to what you already have. And I also just wanted to add that the snippets that you create within your help desk can also be used to train your AI as a data set. So like Hannah was explaining earlier, your AI is going to perform best when it has a good foundation of knowledge to learn from, and you're training that AI on what is relevant for your help desk, right? And so using those snippets as another data set is helping to improve the the reply suggestions that AI is coming up with on tickets.
Great. All right, so we'll do one more question, and it's about Help Center content. So obviously you've talked about how you can generate Help Center content, but there still needs to be a human in the loop to edit and review. So what's the best practice for who should be responsible for building and maintaining Help Center content when the team is spread thin? There's probably no perfect answer there.
No, I'm happy to take that question though. There is no perfect answer. I think every organization is definitely different. In our organization, we have definitely been able to leverage other teams before to help support on things like that. Teams like marketing teams, like where Madeline comes from, in our organization, have definitely been a team that have been able to, jump in and help on content. Um, Generally, I mean, I think it's something that ideally the content should be already, as I said, 80 to 85% of the way there. And so it being delegated to a member of the team if you aren't able to leverage it from outside resources and you're at capacity and trying to make it a something that you don't let build up. So almost it being like, how can we look at dedicating an hour a week where we can try and find that capacity to do it. Ultimately, the goal of doing something like creating more help center content and training customers on accessing help center content, in theory, should then help bring down demand for tickets or help, make sure that customers are coming in more informed than before and just giving links to the customer support team that they can share back with customers. So even if you don't create necessarily a very strong culture of customers tracking the knowledge base before they email in, that's a whole different kettle of fish and problem to solve. But if you're able to help your agents understand that sharing a link back that perfectly answers the customer's question saves them 10 minutes, 15 minutes of writing a long response and includes examples and screenshots or a video, and the quality of that answer is going to be better. In turn, getting someone who maybe spends an hour a week on reviewing 5 knowledge base articles drastically finds everyone maybe an hour a week moving forward. So I think it's a hard problem to solve at the very beginning, but a very valuable way of finding, if you can carve out that time, a very valuable way of encouraging the use of help center content moving forward. And if you can find someone from outside the organization who, loves writing content or wants to be more involved in the voice of your organization outwardly to customers, then, at least at the beginning, whilst you're getting started, having some support from another function could be an option as well.
Yeah, always great to find those hand raisers. All right. Well, I know we are at time. So thank you so much, Hannah and Vanessa. And thank you to everybody who joined us today. Like I mentioned, we will be sharing this over email. And we hope to catch you on our next webinar. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.